Welcome, everybody, to the Genesis Mindset. So in today's episode, as we know, the Atropa ecosystem is basically a revolution in all of cryptocurrency, in my opinion. So quite often I hear people in the comments saying things like, oh, PTGC is like Atropa. And I love PTGC, don't get me wrong, but they're two different beasts. They do different things, and PTGC is a super beast, and it leverages a lot of its power in the liquidity web. But there's more to the Atropa ecosystem than just the liquidity web. So the comparisons are probably not valid in my opinion, but this is not to say one is better than the other. It's just to say that, yeah, the comparisons, in my opinion, are incorrect. But PTGC is freaking awesome. That whole ecosystem, PTGC, UFO, X, Baby X now, definitely worth having a look at. And I'll probably do a bit of a dive on them perhaps in the coming days. I'm not too sure. See how I feel. So obviously with the Atropa ecosystem, because it needs to be considered as a totality, this is what makes it different. It's not as individual tokens. It's a totality. So as such, one of Maria Rahel's intentions for the Atropa ecosystem from the start was to replicate all the financial instruments of the traditional financial system. So now we're starting to see him make all of these parts with Teh F D forming a core part of it. So yeah, Teh F D, I'm assuming that's kind of some form of Federal Reserve. So he's replicating all the financial instruments onto the blockchain into a truly decentralized financial system. So today we'll be exploring this, and thanks to some information that I've been getting from Stu. So also I'm sharing this in the hopes that obviously piece by piece, as I start to talk about it, I'll start to figure it out, because it's not easy doing all this research, and yeah, time is of the essence. And also if I start to pepper it out into the world, then hopefully people will come back to me with things that they've found out, things that they've learned, so that together we can put the pieces together to really figure out this new part of the Atropa ecosystem, which I believe is some sort of banking system within the Atropa ecosystem. So, you know, again, in the original chat logs, when he did that Q&A, he spoke about hedge funds, FDIC. He spoke about some of these things, but from memory, he didn't speak about anything to do with banking. And that's quite interesting, because it's almost like, that would be the thing that you would want to steer away from the most, because the banking system, I mean, if you want to go down some of those conspiracy rabbit holes, the banking system really, really, really doesn't want to lose its power. Let's just put it that way. So with that, first I want to start just by taking a very, very quick brief look at the macro with the Atropa ecosystem, because we were looking at this yesterday. I just had to make sure that my microphone was on. We were looking at this yesterday, and we saw this channel, and I was saying, okay, if we get a rejection off this trend line, it could be a bullish thing. So yeah, maybe perhaps the bottom is in. I still think we still need to wait for the SEC case. We still need to wait for Trump, but it looks like definitely it's starting to look like it's heading in towards the bullish phase. One thing that I did see that was very, very interesting was, yeah, this is why also I do my strategy of like buying in increments, because it almost hit the 1 cent mark yesterday, and it had a massive dump at like in the morning and 4 in the morning, like my time, and it didn't quite hit the 1 cent mark, but it almost hit the 1 cent mark. So it just about tapped the 1 cent mark. So it got very, very close. I still think that there's probably some more downside pressure, but let's see how it goes. So now let's start to look at this new ecosystem that's formulating. So obviously first, there is all of this stuff that's happening now with all of these. I mean, Maria's just gone crazy with all of these tokens. So when he nuked the IRC, he basically just got to work. So in the original chat logs, he was talking about the fact that the token symbol that you see in the description, the token symbol that you see in the thumbnail as well, and in the title, the Korean U, which is Maria's referred to it as OT. So like with the HotX, for example, it has that symbol with HEX. So he's starting to build out this whole new branch of the Atropa ecosystem. So there's all these different tokens. So we had the FDIC, the DFM, Parade. So you're starting to see this token symbol everywhere now. Tellers, Job, Social Security Administration, the Federalist Society. United States presidential campaign. So there's so many to keep up. And what you'll also notice is the token factory. So what's actually creating it? So obviously for a while, for a long time, we were just within this Atropa new contract. We would have just seen Atropa Dev 414, or now obviously Atropa Dev 501. But now he's created token launchers. So basically, the Lao token, it was probably his first token launcher where essentially you're creating a Lao token with affection by burning affection. That was his first one. And now there's these ones here. So these are like, you could consider them V1 and V2. So you've got Token Factory 43B, Token Factory 430B rather, 430B. And now we've got 4354, 4354, more 4354s. So you can see here, Token Factory 4354. I thought there was another one, or is it just Token Factory 4354? So what I'm going to do today is, again, we're just going to have a look at, well, first I'm going to start off by looking at the information that Stewie has presented me. So Stu, he's been on this channel before, a dev within, well, I mean, a dev slash token creator slash community creator in Pulse Chain. He's been on this channel before. He's been on the Atropa Movement episode, and he's also been on just his own Disco Stew. So I'll share first what he said. So I wanted to just give a little bit of context that, yes, okay, that was December 29, but basically from, look how many token launches there's been. There's been a ton. There's been so many. So now we're getting into the 430B and 4354. So even within... So what's today? So that was even within today. So 4354, 4354. So this is today. So there's been two. The only money printers unlimited, Annabelle Money, State versus Bananarama Paper Company. So yeah, make sure to give a poo symbol to all of these things. Yeah, I just always give it poo symbols. Or obviously this is Bananarama, so I gave it a banana. Oh, you're joking. Are you serious? Or are you trolling? Tell me you're trolling. I've got my microphone on. There's no way. Can people confirm? Please tell me you're having a laugh. Please tell me you're living, you're laughing, and you're loving. Ah, oh, gosh, just trolling. You cheeky bugger. Puffy. Anything from Maria in IRC recently? No. So Maria nuked the IRC. So basically Maria spat the dummy, left the IRC. So I haven't even looked at the IRC in a long time. And basically the only way that Maria communicates with the public now is through his YouTube channel. So if you look up Maria Rahel Vanguarden. If you just look up Maria Rahel, I'm sure his YouTube channel will pop up. And whenever he does a live stream, then normally he'll go on there. Sometimes it'll be bam, bam. He'll be playing some sort of guitar and just like jamming it out. Sometimes he'll be having a chat in there. Like it's all just kind of like random stuff. But yeah, that's where he communicates these days. So basically the way that people are putting the pieces together is through those communications that are happening in YouTube, and then also basically through people discussing it. So for example, Sonny's Pub, all the discussions that go on in Sonny's Pub, and then people dissecting the contracts. So what I'm going to do today is just show you the process of how you can dissect the contracts, but I wanted to first start with the context of just showing you that there's these token factories, so these token launches, and then I'm going to show you what Stewie has said. So with that in mind, so Maria has created two token launches. So we just saw them there. So V1 and V2. So both need MV for initial mint. So MV is, it's like the symbol MV. And I'm not going to get the token contract for MV. And I actually don't even know how to mint MV. I'm going to have to figure out that process myself. I don't even know how to mint MV. So you can actually mint MV. I think you can, I'm pretty sure maybe you can burn Pulse Chain to mint MV. I think, I'm not 100% sure. But I know since this has all started, MV has really started to rocket. So he's using MV to be a token that you need to basically, you need to have MV to mint tokens from these launches. So V1, after launch, you use Treasury bill to mint. So the V1, so just so we're all on the same page, so the V1s, I'm quite certain will be things like the 43B. I think 430B. So let me just double check and make sure. 43B. So interview 430B, 430B. Because I know that there will be ones. I mean, okay, let me look for example. I mean, see, I don't even know what half of these are, man. So that's why you always just put a poo symbol or a clown. What a clown dev, poo symbol. Because I know, for example, like Mufti, Tefed. Oh gosh, where are some of these? So yeah, Voltaire. Oh, so that was Atropa Dev 501. Atropa Dev 501. Atropa Dev 501. Yeah, all of these. So Visa, you can yeah, Atropa Dev 501. Interesting. Okay, maybe he was just like experimenting with it at that time, but yeah, so let's go back to what Stewie was saying. So V1, after launch, you use Treasury bill to mint. So you would need V1, you would need MV for the initial mint of the token, and then, or to create the token because it's a token launcher. And then after you've launched the token, then you need Treasury bill to mint. V2, you actually designate it to a parent token. So it can be Fed, V1, or V2 vested tokens. So basically, parent tokens are used to mint into its child token. So in other words, with V2, if I allocate Fed as the parent token, then I'd be minting, I'd be using Fed to mint into its child token. So Treasury bill into Fed, and Fed mints into FDIC. So again, just a little bit of context. So this will be like, as I showed on previous episodes, I've added some things here. So for example, this one here, if we go to all the functions, so this is FDIC, and you can see that this has a parent token, and it will give me the contract address for the parent token. So that I'll know, okay, what's this token? So if I want to find that, so 9FF, so that I could go into the Atropa new contracts. I could go into search and just find what the parent company for this is for FDIC. And it's the Fed. So for the FDIC, it's the Fed, for example. So this is how we can kind of like backtrack and start to dig into this ecosystem. So you then can create a token making Fed the parent. So in this case, obviously FDIC was one of them. You use MV to make the initial token supply. You then take this new token and use it to claim the Fed on the FDIC contract on it due to being minted with. Then you sell Fed down to the price of MV. Oh man, like this, I can already feel the tension in my body just like rising because I'm looking at that and it's just words on a screen. Visualize it, I need to see it visually. It's just words. And this honestly speaking is like the hardest thing about the Atropa ecosystem and trying to learn it, because this is how Maria communicates with us through words. And I'm just like, oh, I don't understand what the hell's being said. So what I'll try and do is I might try and like draw that out, because that's going to help me like try to work it out. So I'll use a chart in a minute and I'll draw it out. So a lot of in-game theory too, basically. So a lot of in-game theory too, basically the system can be replicated. The system can be replicated to act as a bank. I went as far as making tokens designated to represent the divisions of banking and using a V1 as a money printer. So this is interesting. So basically, it looks like there's essentially some kind of feedback loop and some kind of balancing mechanism that's occurring between the different tokens. So you can, so in the same way that, yeah, however the Federal Reserve works, so what does it do? It prints money, and then it like, what does it end up doing? I need to even know that process. Like, okay, what does the Federal Reserve do? Let's just really look at this. What does the Federal Reserve do when it prints money? Because whatever this process is, it appears to be being replicated here on within the Atropa ecosystem. So when the Federal Reserve prints money. It's actually increasing the money supply through monetary policy tools. This can be done by buying securities in the open market or by exchanging cash for bonds. So the Fed decides to increase the money supply, so minting tokens. The Fed buys securities or exchanges cash for bonds. So with those minted tokens, then buying some of these other assets within the Atropa ecosystem. The Fed electronically transfers credits to members' banks' deposits. The Bureau of Engraving and Printing, so the BEP, prints new bills. I wonder if we're going to see something like this appear. Bureau of Engraving and Printing prints new bills. The Fed distributes the new bills to banks in exchange for reserves. But I mean, essentially, this is like the Treasury bill. So then the Fed, or perhaps it's like the Treasury bill, the Fed distributes the new bills to banks in exchange for reserves, and then banks distribute the bills to the public through depository institutions. So if we get this little picture, does the Federal Reserve print money? Oh, that's cool. It's like the Fed acts as a central bank to federal members' banks. So basically, in other words, our Fed, our Teh Fed, is like the Fed, which acts as the Federal Reserve for all these other banks. So in other words, V2, you actually designate a parent token, so it can be the Fed. So yeah, just like this. See how these branches, the parent of these bank branches, these member banks, is the Fed. V1 or V2 vested tokens. Basically, the parent tokens are used to mint into its child tokens. So in other words, yeah, you're minting the Fed, and then the Fed is distributing those bills to the child bank. So it's doing that. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. So yeah, as soon as I see a picture, bro, it starts to make sense. Just words. I mean, thanks to Stewie, this is definitely not having to go at Stewie. He's trying to explain things to me, but yeah, pictures is the way to go, man. Pictures is the way to go, and it's going to save me from having to draw it as well. So yeah, printing money means the Fed adds credit to the accounts of federal member banks or lowers the federal fund rates to increase the money supply. And then the Bureau of Engraving and Printing under the US Department of Treasury. And then they like buy bonds, right? So they basically, isn't that what they do on bonds, is just like yields on the dollar. So they just like buy that with an assurance that in the future it's going to be worth that. So the fact that you have like the Treasury bill, which can sell against the Fed. So there's all these different interesting little mechanisms. So yeah, today it's really just going to be a dip our toes into what this is starting to mean, and then we'll start to dig a little bit deeper. So just before I get too far ahead, so thanks, Liv. I'm sort of paranoid now about the chat, so I want to just make sure. So what's so nice to see all these familiar names in here. Ivy Lane, nice to see you in here. Good morning, friend. Papa Shred, thanks, bro. David, good to see you in here again, man. It's nice to see the familiar names again and again. So he will be creating something in January, I think, to replace the IRC. Ah, okay. I hope so. I think I might have heard that somewhere. I read that somewhere. Maybe, I don't know where. But yeah, that would be really cool. So what's going on, 6-inch meme? Hey, Stephen, is HotX really a leverage play on eHEX? If so, Maria is making a better hex on Atropa's ecosystem. I personally believe the way that I see it is basically it's replacing the mechanism of staking in a kind of way, eHEX staking. So instead of staking your hex on Ethereum and getting slaughtered by gas fees, you can basically swap your Ethereum hex into like bridge it over to Pulse Chain and then swap it into this token, HotX. And then as HotX is moving up, you're getting higher gains on your eHEX. But the thing is, I mean, bro, like Maria's on another planet, on another level. Like Maria is on another level. So even at the rate at which it moves up, so even now it's had a dip. Where is HotX here? So even the way Maria, like, look at this, like even the rate at which it moves up. So from the bottom, it's done. I mean, it's done 130% if you got the bottom, but it's moving up very steadily, like 13, 14%. So it's not like you know, if it was going up too fast, you would probably see like an exodus of eHEX, and people would just bridge out all their Ethereum hex into Pulse Chain. Maybe that's what he wants. Maybe that's what he wants to see. I'm not too sure. I still think that there's a use case for long-term staking for eHEX. I think that this can replace short-term staking. So yes, Maria is making a better hex on the Atropa ecosystem. In my opinion, it's definitely part of it. It's there's like yeah, how much here? So yeah, wow, 3.26 million market cap. But yeah, I don't know what the liquidity is, but I think the liquidity is like 1 point something million. So yeah, I mean, it's giving life to Ethereum hexes, which is phenomenal. Yeah, 1.3 million in liquidity. So yeah, there we go. And it has over 1,000 wallet holders. That's pretty epic. I didn't realize it would go so fast, but obviously Hexicans are watching this and taking advantage of this information. So shout out to all the Hexicans. I also am obviously a Hexican, day one Hexican. So what's up, Conspiracy Crypto? Much love to everyone in here. Thank you so much, guys, for the comments, and girls for the comments. It really makes these live streams really fun. So I've heard HotX could reach. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, that would be. I mean, yeah, that would be just something insane. Let's for now. Let's be happy if it gets to $33. That would be epic. I mean, has been 33, but yeah. What token you looking at? So Contrix, this is the HotX token. So yeah, actually, you know what? I'll give everyone a leg up on this one and put the contract address in there, but always double check everything and, you know, double verify. Grogu, the way. This is the way. Young G, what's going on? Good afternoon from Oxford. Man, people from all over the world. Baggio, what's going on, Baggio? I made some good gains with HotX. I think a lot of people have. So now let's keep this a nice short episode. So we're going into the implications of the Fed. So how can I start to wrap my head around it? So what do I want to do? I want to start looking in deeper into this. So let's confirm now. Okay, which is the V1, which is the V2? Let's just confirm this right now. So we're going to go to the Atropa contract. So what Stu is talking about, there's a V1 and a V2. So let's use some of the newest ones. So for example, let's go Pulpit. Annabelle Money. Pulpit, is that some sort of religious thing, by the way? Whoops, I spelled that wrong. Pulpit, raised platform or lectern in a church or a chapel from which the preacher delivers a sermon. So I'm delivering the sermon of Atropa on the pulpit now. So we're going to look into a pulpit. Yeah, I mean, in my mind, this is a cute little synchronicity, but yeah, I mean, the amount of synchronicity. I actually want to do an episode on that, but I don't actually know how I'm going to do an episode on that. But in my mind, yeah, like doing an episode on why that gives me the conviction, the synchronicities. I might even draw a little cute little picture at the end. So anyway, I may not have linked these websites, but if you just go to ddob.com, and I'm just going to go here, put in, bugger. So I've now got to select, oh yeah, here we go. So you copy and paste in there and it will decompile it. So I want to get the ABI. So it's going to decompile it. I've got the ABI here. All right. So the reason why I want that is because I'm going to add it into here. So there used to be another website for this, but this is a much, much better website. It's so much easier. So I'm going to import now this pulpit. So I'm going to copy and paste the address here. And this website here is scgui.aff.icu. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to get the ABI. So I'm just going to copy and paste the whole thing. So just this little button up here, paste it into here. And then the name, I'm going to get the name now. And the name was Pulpit. So here we go. Or, you know, sometimes I'll put both. So I'll put Annabelle Money. Ugh. I'll also put Annabelle Money. Annabelle Money. I'm a bit of a... Okay, cool. All right, save. We don't need to change the type. Just save, and it will do it automatically. So now we're going to see, is this the V1 or the V2? How are we going to know? Okay, it's got a parent. It's got a parent token. So we know then, obviously looking at the information from Stu. Where was it? Stu. V1, after launch, you use Treasury bill to mint. V2, you designate it to a parent. So we know that this is V2. So therefore, anything that's launched from 4354, token factory 4354 is a V2. So let's call the parent. I just want to see what the parent is of this. So then we're going to copy and paste this address. So this is the contract address for the parent token. And then we'll do a search here, copy and paste that token address. Let's see which one that is. And it happens to be cheat on the bar exam. Yeah, so cheat on the bar exam. So let's just see how far, let's like dig down this little rabbit hole. So now let's go cheat on the bar exam. And let's decompile that now. So we're going to decompile that. No, not that one. We need to decompiler. And then copy and paste cheat on the bar exam. While that decompiles, let's now add this. And obviously, yeah, it's going to have, so those mint and the burn kind of functions that Stu was talking about. Now we're going to add this one in here, cheat on the bar exam. So copy and paste that address. Here is our ABI. And copy and paste that here. Cheat on the bar exam. All right, here we go. So cheat on Teh bar exam. And let's just see where this leads us. So let's have a look at what the parent is for this. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun like digging into this. So 3E7. I'm not going to go all the way down this because I just want this to be like a little short episode just to kind of see how you could start to do some of this stuff for yourself and maybe sort of dig into this rabbit hole and you might be able to figure something out. Okay, then we got this one, and then I'm sure possibly even this then, I mean, if that's the parent, then probably this becomes the parent, and then that's the parent of that. I mean, we'll do it 3 times. Let's do it 3 times. Because always. So where were we? All right. So let's do this one now. And so obviously they're mintable, right? So even here with this particular one, let's also look at this on the block explorer. So it starts off with a 1 point, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So 11.1 million supply. So this will be our final one that we decompile because 3 is a good way to learn. And let's just see if it keeps going all the way back. And then let's add it into here. So once you get used to doing this sort of stuff, it's like, oh, it's kind of tough at the start. But then once you get used to like clicking the buttons, it just becomes like driving. It just becomes like second nature. And then also I'm just going to copy this into the block explorer and let it start looking and just see, for example, how many tokens have been minted. And then what was this one? Interesting. So let's put that into here. Token symbol, whatever that is, looks like some sort of clock looking thing. And then save. This is MV, by the way. So this is the MV. So I'll give you guys a leg up in here as well. So if anyone wants to start digging around with MV and sharing how to mint, I'm sure that you'll be able to find how to mint it in the Atropa chat. I haven't personally looked, but that's the contract address for the MV. All right, so what's the parent company to this? What's the parent for this? So 81F. Now we can go here, 81F. Cool. So yeah, as I expected, it went to this one now. So let's see, for example, how many have been, wow, so 23.9 million now on this one. So this supply is effectively doubled. So yeah, people are making moves. 44 holders. So I guess I guess it's time to really it's time to really move on this, to be perfectly honest. I don't know what any of this means, but I guess just like anything, when you're early, that's the best time, right? So the earlier that we can figure out how all of this stuff works, the better. So basically what I said, I think I understand what you're saying. So all the Atropa launches happening, is that people like you launching or just Maria? So all of those that you see in there is mainly Maria launching them. Not sure the purposes behind them yet. A lot of game theory behind it. There's a lot to do in this little realm. So yeah, like I said, I can't keep up. Thanks for sharing. So if anyone else has time to look at these things and they want to share things that they've learned, yeah, let's get together. Send me a DM. Just at me in the Atropa chat. Basically, I am on the pulpit giving sermons of the Atropa ecosystem. So yeah, that's the token factory 4534. So then in the context of the Fed, that's all of these. They're kind of leading their way into the Fed. So it's almost like, yeah, I guess even possibly like how even the banking system, it would all lead back to the Fed, but probably then the Fed would go down to like JP Morgan, and then maybe JP Morgan has branches off it, so then it feeds back into that, and then so obviously JP Morgan are a bunch of scammers and they own like the Fed, because all the banking cartels got together and basically scams the population. I saw a really interesting video the other day where, like, in order to, like, from a metaphysical and spiritual level, in order to get compliance from people from a spiritual perspective, in order for the world to manifest according to your mind, the world needs to comply in a way, or the universe needs to comply. So just by basically like showing us what they're doing, but in sort of secretive but direct ways, they're getting compliance. And I don't really go down these conspiracy rabbit holes, but I was like, yeah, that's kind of interesting. It sort of makes a little bit of intuitive sense. I don't really know how I could describe it, but it makes a bit of sense. So, hey, what's going on here? So we got Puffy. When you figure out how this works, can you create a nice guide for us so we can print money as well, please? Yeah, I mean, that's hopefully what I'm going to get to. But I guess what I'm hoping is that other people can help me work it out, because I can't read the contracts that well. So these guys can read the contracts. I can use, like I showed the other day, like Chat GPT. Bloody hell. So I basically put, here we go, PRC 20. So that was some of my topics to meditate with one of the students. Yeah, so basically what I did was I copied and pasted one of those addresses, and it started to give me this. So I need to really kind of wrap my head around this, but in order to wrap my head around this, I also think I need to understand the system of banking and the way that the banking works. Because if our Fed is better than their Fed, then I need to understand the existing Fed on a more intuitive level. At the moment, the only way that I really understand it is very basically through like imagery like this. And I've seen, like, those documentaries that the Fed is evil, and the Jekyll Island, all that kind of stuff. I've seen all that stuff, but understand, I don't have an economics degree, I don't have a finance degree, so it's not something that I like know like the back of my hand. So Maddie, what's going on, brother? How are you going with all this Fed stuff? I don't know how much you know any about this, but yeah, it seems like there's not a lot of people knowing about it. And I mean, let's just have a look here. So this was just out of curiosity, and please be mindful. This doesn't necessarily mean go out and buy these tokens, because they're mintable, right? So I don't actually think like the purpose of these things is not just to go out and buy the tokens and just hold it and then sell it one day. I don't think that that's actually the purpose. So, I mean, this one, again, the supply is doubled. So that was for the bar. Let's have a look at Pulpit now. So this is the newest one, just out of curiosity, see what the token supply is on Pulpit. Interesting. Annabelle Money Pulpit. So it's the Block Explorer is weird, man. So the Block Explorer will have this, but it doesn't have the bar. So 75,000 Pulpit. How many tokens? So 22 holders. So the holders, like, there's not many people that are doing this stuff. That's why even when Dysnomia started coming out, I really wanted to go down that avenue. What? See, token supply 6.66. Yeah, but there's only 75,000 here, so that doesn't doesn't really make a great deal of sense, to be perfectly honest. So 22 holders. Yeah, and again, yeah, you can keep going down these rabbit holes, and then obviously what the liquidity versals.app, always using this little bad boy. Just, what are the liquidity pools like? Obviously here with this one, 75,000 tokens, 22 holders, so it's brand new, launched today. Again, it doesn't seem to me to be like the thing where it's like, oh, a new token launched, I'll just buy it. It doesn't seem to be like that. It seems to be like something's happening here, that it's like the infrastructure of a banking system or a Federal Reserve system. So it's all the pieces. And that's also why my thumbnail is deliberately showing, like, normally when I show the Atropa, I show like the whole Atropa like web and all the cogs, but now I've shown it as like a branch. So this is like a new branch that's happening within the Atropa ecosystem. So here, yeah. Oh, Annabelle the Prophet, interesting. So I don't think Maria made any liquidity webs. So maybe this hasn't been updated as well. So this was from last Wednesday, so I would expect probably there's been more. So this just doesn't look like it's been updated. So then you'd have to check who the creator of this one was if you wanted to see if it was Maria, for example. But then obviously it only has like 204 liquidity. But I think the game now is to try and, it seems like the game now is basically about the minting and the burning between these different tokens, and how these tokens interrelate, and how they relate back to the parents, how they relate back to the Fed, and how this somehow is going to harmonize and keep a balanced system. So it seems like, again, perhaps this becomes the bank. We spoke about dysnomia being your own bank with minting your tokens. Maybe this is the bank. I don't really know. I'm not really too sure. So yeah. So obviously we figured out, so that was the V2, and then the V1, obviously by process of deduction, is the ones that are made by let's have a look. Let's just see what their functions do, and we should be able to confirm. So just confirm on the blockchain, confirm with the data. Let's have a look for the 430B. 430B, here we go. So let's have a look. 430B, so interview. Interesting. So the 430B, interesting. So he hasn't used the, that's interesting. That's really interesting. He hasn't used, okay, let me just do a quick search here. That he's not using the, what's the very first one? Yeah, okay. There we go. All right. So he's not using the Korean symbol. He's not using the OT or the U. He's not using it for the 430B. So these relate to the Treasury bill. So let's go to the newest one. They relate to the Treasury bill. Still we're using, I'll give this a poop. Actually, no, other people gave it a heart. I'll give it a heart, but I'll give this a poop. So let's have a look here. So we'll take this now. Let's go through that same process with interview. We'll just have a look at across all spectrums. So we'll look at it on the liquidity versals. We'll look at it on the blockchain, the block explorer. Has anyone tried sending an email there? I don't even know if, I'll be curious to see if that actually works. So now let's decompile this. And then now let's start adding it. Or have I already added it on here? I have not. So now we're doing interview. So this is the V1 token launcher. So, and then let's do this. And then interview. All right. Let's take the ABI. So really, I mean, this shouldn't, when we look at the functions, it shouldn't have, say, when we look at the functions, it shouldn't have a parent. Yeah, there we go. So just as Stewie said, so we're just basically looking, exploring, trying to learn, doing a little bit of digging, trying to figure these things out, confirming, double confirming. So yeah, I trust Stewie. I love Stewie. He's such a nice dude, like an amazingly awesome dude. But also, it's a really good idea to confirm the information for yourself. So that's exactly what I've done here. So he's saying this, but yeah, just getting into the habit of confirming things for yourself and not just taking somebody's word as the gospel. Because yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be listening to what I say, because I get things wrong. I say, oh, it's the bottom, it's definitely the bottom, and it's not the bottom, and it dips down another 50%, and then people get shitty. So you should never just listen to somebody on YouTube. You should figure these things out for yourself. So yeah, that's exactly what we've done here. So yeah, now let's go over this information again as a kind of summary now. So basically, Maria has created two token launches, V1, which is the 430B, and V2, which was the 4358 or whatever it was. Both need MV for initial mint. So we have, for example, 1, 2, 3. They are the 4358, so that's V2. And then we have this one, which is a 43B, and it doesn't have a parent. So there's no parent to call. So, but these also are mintable. So they're also mintable tokens. All these tokens are mintable. And you need MV. So we need this. So this is something probably where maybe this can be the next episode where I figure out how to actually mint MV. You can just buy it on the market, of course, but yeah, figuring out how to mint it would be cool too, because like this is the thing. So once you know how to mint it, it might end up being like for example, if you burn Pulse Chain to mint it, you might end up getting a much better deal by burning Pulse Chain to mint it than buying it on the market with Pulse Chain, for example. And so those are the things where it's like you want to figure those things out. So yeah. All right. So then V1, after launch, you use Treasury bill to mint. So in other words, for this, the 430B, we're using Treasury bills. So for this one, in order to call the mint function, we're going to use Treasury bills. So we would need to, I suspect, basically, I'm pretty sure I'd even know how to do that based on how I was doing it with these tokens like Luke and Tubble. So then I would go to, I'm not going to actually do it because I don't think I've got any Treasury bill in my wallet, but I'll just show you guys how I'm pretty sure you can do it. So in here, I've got Treasury bill. So on Treasury bill, I would open it up. So remember, read is basically just seeing what's there, and then write, we're interacting with the actual blockchain to imprint into the blockchain. We're writing onto the blockchain. So what I would go here is I would approve the spender as that particular contract address, so the interview token, and then I would say the amount, so whatever the amount is. And then remember as well, these are like, you have to use like 18 extra zeros, so or 17 or 18 or one of the two. So yeah, if you wanted to mint 1,000, for example, or approve minting 1,000, you would end up putting like another 18 zeros. So this is how I did it with like Mufti and Tefed and all of those kinds of tokens. So I would approve it here, call the approve, and then I would go here, and then it would be approved. So then I'd be able to mint it with that same amount. So you guys can experiment with that, see if that's how you actually do it with the V1s. So after V1, you use Treasury bill to mint. V2, you actually designate a parent token. So it can be Fed, V1, or V2 vested token. So let's say in that particular strand, we saw 3 different parent tokens. So basically, parent tokens are used to mint it into its child token. So instead of using Treasury bill, you're using the child token. So for example, Pulpit, its child is I think what was it? What was the parent? So whatever the. So in other words, instead of, so then for Pulpit, what was Pulpit again? The parent of Pulpit. So we worked backwards. So the parent of Pulpit was bar. So cheat on the bar exam or on Teh bar exam. So in other words, if I want to mint Pulpit, I'd be using bar. So then, in other words, if this is what I'm, actually, you know what? Let's just I'll bring this up as well. Sorry, I got a little bit sidetracked there. Actually, I was in the middle of explaining the V1 with the interview. I'll go back to that. So yeah, I'm gonna put this back here. But what I want to do is I want to just bring up. Where's the search? I got to take this off. basically what I'm trying to do now is show how like the effectiveness of mint can work. So here's pulpit and then bar. So for example, if you're minting bar for pulpit, you want to be keeping an eye on this ratio. And as you know, you could become like the custodian of, the way that I'm seeing it is you could become like the custodian of maybe this, cheat on the bar exam. You might say, you know what, I like the sound of that, it's cool, whatever, I'm going to cheat on the bar exam, so I'm going to stay within this ratio. So the true ratio should be 1-to-1. It should be 1-to-1. I mean, assuming that you're minting one bar to equal one pulpit. So it should be 1-to-1. But if the ratio ends up dipping like this way, then it becomes profitable. So you want to keep your eye on this. So at the moment, it's not going to be like you're going to lose out by minting. But basically, the way that you're looking at these things is when the ratio dips in a way that is favorable for the mint. So if the mint is supposed to be at 1-to-1, so let's just go to 1 and just make it a little bit fat. If the mint is supposed to be at 1, if the ratio ends up, it's got to be pretty. It's always got to be pretty. So let's just say it does a little bit of this. So yeah, then in this instance, it might be profitable to mint pulpit with bar, and then you would sell it, and then you'd basically be selling the pulpit back into bar, and then you'd bring it back up to the 1-to-1, and you'd want to keep it stabilized at this kind of ratio. And then you, as a custodian of this, might keep an eye on this, and okay, whenever it slips out of ratio by the way that it's bonded to other tokens or whatever, then you can always just keep bringing it back. So you're basically like managing the peg of this particular thing. So man, very fascinating that there's like all of these different little branches that are seeming to be something that can contribute to help stabilize things like Treasury bill to $1. I just conceptually in my mind as a concept, it seems very, very viable that all of these things can really they're basically they're just kind of holding it together. Because if these tokens rely on Treasury bill to mint to 1-to-1, and then as the ratios dip out, people can take advantage of that, and then these are related to that, which is related to Treasury bill. There's all these different pieces of that puzzle. It's almost like a I don't know. I can only think from like an architectural perspective or like a structural perspective. It's like if you've got like a bridge. Oh man, it's got to be straight. I can't get it straight. But if you have a bridge, what's that famous, the Golden Gate Bridge? It's not just a straight line across. You need to actually, I don't know what the Golden Gate Bridge looks like, but this is like an old school bridge. You need to support it along the way. So all of these pieces in a way are helping support the stability of it. So yeah, I mean, this maybe we can say that this is a brick bridge, but there's all these supports. So I'm even thinking, I mean, it's a web, but it's even more than a web now. It's really just like all these things are just like, in a way, just holding it in some sort of tension. So it has some fluidity, but also some tension in the same way. It's very, very fascinating. It's very, very fascinating. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure, put it that way. So Treasury bill mints into Fed, and Fed mints into the FDIC. You can then create a token making Fed the parent. You use MV to make the initial token supply. So I think then, like if you want to make the token supply 1,000, then you would have to have 1,000 MV, and then so it sounds like you would burn that MV, and you then make this new token and use it to claim the Fed on the FDIC contract on its due to it being, so basically the fact that it's connected to it through the minting, and then you sell Fed down to the price of MV. Wow, so it all relates back to MV as well. You then sell it. So what I was basically saying about Treasury bill also relates to MV, because if MV is like the thing that mints out all of these, then it's also going to help create some kind of stability with MV as well. So MV somewhere along the way is going to create some kind of like stable price based just on purely like market participation. A lot of in-game theory too. Basically, the system can be replicated to act as a bank. I went as far as making tokens designated to represent the divisions of banking and using a V1 as a money printer. So V1 as a money printer, interesting. So let's just finalize with going back to the V1, which was the interview token. So let's have a look at what the interview token was. So token supply at 1. So it started at 1. And now the token supply is 17 million. So people have minted this a lot. And yeah, basically what he's saying, what Stewie is saying, that he's used, I went as far as making tokens designated to represent the divisions of banking and using a V1 as a money printer. So the interview token is like a money printer for these V2s. So yeah, very interesting. As I keep wrapping my head around this, I'll keep presenting it. But today it's really just like, let's start dipping our toes, because otherwise in the past I'd try and like really collect all this information and then condense it and present it, but it's getting so complicated now that it's almost like, okay, all these little parts that I get, let's get these parts, let's dig into it, and then let's do a stream on it and try and nut it out. And that's what I did here. So now we've gone over an hour, or we've gone just under an hour, so I'm gonna pretty much leave it at this. I'm just gonna go through the comments now and just see if there's any questions. Grab some at the bottom after some research. Nice, good on you, man. Good stuff. Bond market is the liquidity. At the moment, BlackRock is the largest holder technically. So the bond market is the liquidity. So yeah, even I really need to like make all this terminology like really, really second nature in my mind, so I can more clearly elaborate these points as well from like a financial standpoint as well. They're required to disclose. So when we are choosing free will matters. That was in relation to those comments. Yes, there you go. So it's how they're kind of manipulating reality. So my pleasure, David. My pleasure, lads. All right, so it's just if there's any questions. Most of them are stabilizing mechanisms to keep Treasury bill at $1 once it gets there. So yeah, I mean, also, I mean, I don't want to FUD Treasury bill, and I'm not saying it's not going to get to $1. Maria said it's going to get to $1, so it could very highly probably get to $1. But also, Maria says things where it's almost just like, I remember in the old chat log days, he'd sort of say these outrageous prices for things where it's like, that just seems ridiculous. But it's almost just like to lure people into, okay, the essentially what he's saying is that this thing is going to go up, and he's creating this crazy price target. But whether Treasury bill actually pegs to $1 maybe is not the relevant thing. I think it's really to maybe even symbolize that this is like the stable asset within the Atropa ecosystem, or this is like one of the stable assets within the Atropa ecosystem. So I hope it gets to $1. I really, 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 really do, because that would be just like that would be massively epic. So decentralized banking system. Exactly. This is what makes the Atropa ecosystem so exciting. There's nothing like it. Nothing even comes close to it. That's why, again, when I started off this stream, like PTGC, all that stuff, brilliant, amazing. But this is more than just a liquidity web. This is a decentralized financial system on the blockchain. There's nothing like it. When people like Raoul Pal start finding out about this, when the SEC case is cleared, when all that stuff gets cleared and Richard Hart gets his glory, people will start bringing in their assets into this blockchain. I believe the whales will start bringing it in, but this is where our opportunity lies, because the whales aren't here yet, because it's a risk. So that's why, like, people complaining all over Twitter about the prices, I'm just like, you guys have no gratitude whatsoever. Like, are you even seeing what's happening on this blockchain? How can you be upset by what's happening on this blockchain? There's so much abundance on this blockchain, and it's almost like we're the pioneers. So we're the people that are like, the first ones in New York that are building out the street, and we've got the prime real estate in New York before New York is even New York. How, like, This is the time to be getting excited and building, not after all the whales have come. Let Wall Street come later. Let them come into our prime real estate and build Wall Street after. We have the opportunity to capture this prime real estate. So that's how I'm looking at this. Like, this is prime real estate that I want to try and learn about. So if the ratio, good morning, DJ and Hexicon, by the way. Good morning, bro. If the ratio is of you mint them with Treasury bill and sell them into Treasury bill afterwards, gaining the arbitrage. Exactly. So there was all those ones like Mufti and Tabor that you could do that with. And I mean, yeah, let's have a look at that. Just so you got, just to emphasize this point. So we're seeing it here. This is one of the particular assets, but let's look at one of the ones that Maria was talking about on stream. So let's look at Tabor. So we'll go Tabor and Treasury bill, just so you can see how this has actually worked on something that's been around for a little bit longer. So Tabor and maybe so Tabor's with the Fed, so it's not with Treasury bill. What was with Treasury bill? There was definitely some that were with Treasury bill. So while that's loading, let's get another one. Some that I was messing around with. Maybe, I mean, even the Fed should be 1-to-1 with Treasury bill, to the best of my knowledge. I'm pretty sure to mint the Fed is Treasury bill. That was the only thing that maybe it got me a little bit confused with these, with what Stewie was saying. So yeah, here we go. So this, you can see I mean, you can see people doing shit here, right? So with Tabor, so there would have been, people selling the Fed and then just looking at these opportunities. So this is really just the start. This is the start. So you become the arbitrage. You can, and I mean, one thing that people have been saying in Sunny's pub, which has been, okay, so it's not then the Fed and Treasury bill. One thing that people have been saying in the pub is like, it's percentages. The game at the moment is about percentages. So even though it's like, you're making like 0.001 cent, but if Treasury bill gets to $1, for example, then it's pretty lucrative. It's extremely lucrative. So, okay, so I'm pretty sure. So here we go. Yeah, I mean, it's very, very clear, right? So the 1-to-1. So the Fed and Treasury bill is the thing that's supposed to be 1-to-1. So at the moment, it's not 1-to-1. So in other words, if you had Treasury bill, you could be buying up the Fed. And then if the price ever gets up like past, then that's when you would like mint. So then you would mint the Treasury bill for the Fed, and then you would sell the Fed down. So then it would come back to the 1-to-1. And then just through other people's participations, just through other things that are happening within these different kinds of branches, it's always going to throw this thing and just create this really interesting dynamic of like seemingly perpetual arbitrage, both from as a market participant and then the bots also. Thanks, bud. Yeah, we also need to jump back on stream, man, and address some of those comments that you were going over. So I think, let's line something up. It's good that you're here, actually, at this particular time, because I didn't think that you could stream at these times. So, yeah, we'll have a chat. We'll definitely line something up. Maybe we can dig into this tomorrow. I'll hit you up in the DM. So what's going on, Ram? I thought interview had something to do with the IRC replacement. There you go. So yeah, I can't keep up with all the information, but I think you're right. I do think I remember seeing that somewhere, Ivy. So I think it was, if you would have to have the interview token. You have to pass the test. So that's why it was like cheat on the bar exam, and then you pass the test to enter into the new chat log. So I guess Maria's continuously trying to keep it elite. So even myself, I'm really falling behind, to be honest. So MV depends on gas price. So it only makes sense to mint when gas is low. There you go. So I do recall hearing something about that. So T-bill doesn't have to be stabilized to 1, but it has to reach $1. Yeah. MV could be the stable coin for Atropa. So even on this, the Don, I mean, when you start to see things like this, where the Fed and the Treasury bill, like, it has to reach $1. So why do you say Treasury bill has to reach $1? I'm interested to I'm interested into why you think it has to reach there. Is that just because Maria said $1? But okay, let's say it does get there to the $1. I can start to see how these mechanisms here of the minting and the burning, so just with the Fed, and then all the branches of the Fed will help keep that to $1. So if you can see that the Treasury bill and the Fed is supposed to be minted 1-to-1, and it should be 1-to-1, and just through arbitrage, people arbitraging should be 1-to-1. And then all these other branches that are connected to the Fed, which are also trying to keep the branches 1-to-1 with the Fed. It's like, I don't know, man. It's interesting. Put it that way. It's very, 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 very interesting what's happening here. So what's up, Heart family? What's up, Arrows? Definitely, we are the Heart family. We're the ones who we can hear with our hearts. And that's what makes this community special. So is leg day overrated? Bro, what made you ask about leg day? That's very interesting, because is someone bloody... What made you ask about leg day? I actually asked a question to ChatGPT about... What made you ask about leg day? I asked a question about ChatGPT. I didn't do leg day today, but I was doing deadlifts, and I always get this like pain between my hamstring and buttocks. So I need to I asked ChatGPT how I can fix that. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Just a short, sweet one. So it's still an hour, but yeah, we're starting this process of looking into this ecosystem. And as we keep looking into it, as we keep kind of listening and saturating the information, we keep sharing with each other, we're going to get closer and closer to what's actually happening here. I'm sure Maria's got it all worked out, all planned out, all mapped out. Now we're the ones now who are trying to buy that prime real estate in New York in like 18 or 1700s New York, or I don't even, what's the history of New York? I'm in Australia, so I don't know. But when, it's like horse and buggy New York, when it's not Wall Street New York. We're horse and buggy New York on Pulse Chain right now. That's where we want to be buying the real estate around, what is it? Times Square, the Central Garden thing or whatever it's called, Central Park. This is what we need to be doing. So synchronicities, bro. There's always synchronicities with the Atropa ecosystem. Do you know what, Jaisu? Lately I've been avoiding leg day so bad. Squats, man, I get sick of them. So much love and affection, and we need to do an update on affection as well, because I don't want to forget about affection and dysnomia. So anyway, thanks very much, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thanks for commenting. Over 300 people. This is great. So there's obviously a lot of interest. So again, if anyone wants to have a chat about this sort of stuff on stream, reach out to me in DMs. Reach out to me with any information. Even if you think, oh, this is kind of dumb or this is obvious, just hit me up. Like, you never know. It might trigger something in my mind, which triggers like a whole... I mean, Stewie just sent me a few messages, which triggered like this whole exploration into this ecosystem now. So yeah, just anything that you guys have, just hit me up in DMs, and I'm always willing to have a look and just explore. So try Quadratus lumborum stretches. Tommy Morrison is a good guide. I'll have a look at that. Duke of Boost. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. So thank you very much, everybody, for contributing. I should have turned my microphone off, so I got all those so I got all the super chats. But thanks very much, everybody. You guys have a great day and a great afternoon.